Oh man, hey, welcome back to another episode of Paradigm Shift TV 314. Hey, I'm pretty sure y'all already heard part one earlier, man. This is about to be part two. Starting off today, of course, I got my brother Jerome, the Conscious Christian Green, my co-host on Trust and Believe the Gospel, Mr. Co-host to you. We also got the bro, Byron Washington in the building, and we're looking forward to a few more other Christian brothers jumping on the panel as well once they get the link and have time to jump on in. But without further ado, y'all already know what it is. I'm pretty sure y'all saw the part one video of defining the conscious community. So we just finna jump right into it. Hey, Byron, go jump us off, my brother.
Hey, what's going on, family? Hey,
What's good?
man, we just wanted to have a little part two conversation about a topic that I think that's kind of a subtopic, but it still ties into what we talked about in the previous part one, and that's really about like definitional terms and really spiritual and religion or religious, and the idea that people to nowadays say. And I personally, it's nice to say because it's cute, but I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And what do those terms actually mean? Like, do people actually look those terms up for what the definitions? Are we redefining those terms? Like, and what else? What are those redefinitions that's being put out there? Do you have the authority to redefine terms? And then you get into these things about, well, the English language does A, B, C, and D, or whatever. And I'm like, this is me personally, yeah, English, isn't our quote unquote native language, but nonetheless, and this is not an emotional statement when I say it, but that's the language that we have. We know all the history of, why we speak English and et cetera, et cetera. I get all that, but that's the language that we here in the United States of America have. That's our mode of communication. And so with anything with communication, got to have definitions. And if you keep redefining terms, and we'll get into it later, man, that just gets into a whole whirlwind of issues.
Right, and then it's like how all three of us are on here communicating right now. How do we communicate if we just keep on redefining words? If my definition is my definition and your definition is your definition, then how can we even have a civil conversation?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What's up, Jerome, bro? How you doing today, bro?
What's up, bros? I'm good, man. I'm just glad to be back on for another episode, man. I think this topic is one that's really long overdue. But I think at the same time it's right on time because a lot of so-called conscious folk, the catchphrase that they always like to use. I'm spiritual, not religious, but I think when they say that, like Byron was alluding to, they don't have a proper understanding of the definitions of religion and spirituality. So, I think they view spirituality as something that is not necessarily organized, doesn't have any structure or rules or things of that nature. So I already know, man, we gonna dig into it and we gonna let it do what it do, man.
That's right, man. If I'm not mistaken, some months ago, I don't remember how many months ago, you and I, Jerome, was on a panel with a few brothers, and we pulled up spiritual, and we were showing how, the different categories that fall under that, or I mean, well, that falling in the category of religion. My bad. That's what it was. We pulled up a definition of religion, if I'm not mistaken. And the word religion was like similar and all that. And you remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah. It was a while back, so I know we done had a bunch of shows since then. But now, again, yeah, I agree with both of you brothers. As we left off yesterday, like Jerron was telling me, not to give it all to him, but yeah, it just don't make too much sense, like you said, knowing the definitions of the words or the meaning of the words, especially when it comes to religion, and knowing that it's three definitions for the word religion, and that the third definition states anything that anyone subscribes in extreme importance to. And we all subscribe something of importance to the extreme, whether it's, family, money, or, our belief system, whatever you want to call it. You can even do things religiously. It's a term where, oh man, I do this religiously. I watch football religiously, or whatever you want to call it, because it's something that you subscribe as important to you. So like you said, like both of y'all said, when it comes to me, people who try to shun the word religion, it's either out of ignorance or out of following the trend of what we see today, knowing that if you are religious, then you are also spiritual at the same time, so.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Yep, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's man. So, just to add on, one thing I always hear back is, you'll show brothers definitions, and they be like, well, this culture don't got no term for religion, so I subscribe to what they believe. And I'm like, but no disrespect intended, but you're not a part of that culture. And it's not saying that you wouldn't be, but like, if you're gonna pick and choose and say, some culture in one of the thousands of cultures in Africa, you pick one, and they don't have a one-to-one definitional term that we use for religion. And say, see, they don't have a term for religion. Like, yeah, I get that, but at the same time, you don't speak their language, you don't eat their food, you ain't in their community, so you don't even know their whole worldview. You just picking something that you supposedly don't like in this culture, and then find another culture that don't have the same terminology and say, look, I'm gonna subscribe to them. But I'm always like, well, you don't speak their language. You don't even know, you don't know the clothes they wear, you don't know their family structure.
Byron, outside of that, just because they may not have a word or a term for it, they still have a concept of what the definition is. So that cuts the snake off at the head. Even linguistics will teach you that English is one of the only languages that have a term or a definition for almost everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's one of the hardest languages to learn, because we try to find a word or a meaning or a concept. Like, look at the word meme. Meme wasn't a word, 10 years ago? You know what I'm saying? Rather than just calling it a picture, we found a word for it, and now you can look in the 2021 dictionary and find the word meme in it. You see what I'm saying? So just because they don't have a term for it still don't mean that they don't have a concept of it, knowing that the concept is a belief in God, extreme and subscribe to extreme importance to what you believe or think. So, it's, yes. I'm sorry, bro. I just
no, you got it, bro.
It
was just something else I want to add to it. Is just, and I go to Jerome after this. A lot of our brothers and sisters, want to subscribe to more Afrocentric thought and Afrocentric spiritualities. And I remember Jude 3 did an episode a few months. It wasn't even Jude 3. It was another program, but they were talking about spiritual systems. And this lady was in like the Ifa tradition, and she was talking about how she gets upset when people just think they shouldn't Christianity or shouldn't Islam or whatever, and they're gonna go to an African spiritual system and just be free to do what they want. And she was like, no, that's not how it works here. Like, we still have, essentially rules and regulations, and the way you go about doing things, even in Ifa, even in this native African tradition, it's certain clothes that you have to wear. It's certain things that you have to do weekly, monthly, daily, or whatever. So it still classifies as what we would call religion here, because it's just, you have a belief, and then you have a set of practices or worship or whatever you want to call it that coincides with that belief. And I'm just like, when people say, well, no, I don't believe, I'm more spiritual. It's like, yeah, but you still have things that you do that adhere to your spirituality. I mean, even Satanists are religious, like, because they have certain things that they do to adhere to Satan, like, and whatever the case is, UFO. Somebody comment on my page like, oh, what about them UFO people? I'm like, yeah, they're religious too, because they have certain things that they do to adhere to a belief system of UFOs. Like, it's it is not that difficult when we break these things down, but it's always weird because like I did a post yesterday and I said nothing about Christianity at all. But a lot of people start automatically saying like, well, you're God and you're a Bible. And I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm talking, I didn't talk about my faith tradition. And it's crazy how in America we define religion based purely on Christianity or the Abrahamic faith. And I'm like, yeah, they may be the most popular worldwide, but like there's thousands of religions worldwide. Why are you defining the terms of religion based only on your assumption view of, say, Christianity? Like that makes zero sense. Because you don't do that any other subject in the world, but you do that here. So I mean, but to you're a draw.
Okay, I'm actually glad you brought that up because that could kind of set the tone for what I'm about to do. Because in the conscious community, of course, you hear people say, as we said earlier, I'm spiritual, not religious, or you even hear what I subscribe to ain't a religion, it's a way of life, and this, that, and the third. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to define religion in terms of what's called the 4 C's. And what the 4 C's are creed, code, cultus, and community. You know what I'm saying? And in regards to religion, it defines religion as something that can be understood as a system of symbols, which are creed, code, and cultus, by which means of people, a community in essence, orient themselves in the world with reference to both ordinary and extraordinary powers, meaning, and values. Now, to further break down the 4 C's, creeds are explanation about the meanings of life. And, in other words, they're origin stories. And we see origin stories come from 5 percenters, Nation of Islam, people who follow Kemetic spirituality, people who follow the Ifa tradition, people who follow, we even have our own, we have an origin story ourselves. So we, that it applies to us too, but we won't deny that. In essence, we would embrace it, but people who claim to be spiritual and not religious would deny that, even though this first C out of the 4s, which is creeds, is something that every sect formation in the conscious community adheres to, even atheists. You know what I'm saying? But I'll go further to the second C, which is codes. And codes are rules that govern everyday behavior, moral and ethical systems in essence. So, you see that, in, whatever group you follow in the conscious community, you see that also. And of course, that applies to us too. We have codes that we have to live by, which we get from the Bible and stuff like that. And, our ultimate example is Christ. So we do our best to follow him. The third C is cultus, which are rituals to act out the insights and understandings that are expressed in the creeds and the codes that we follow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we already know that, like with the 5 percenters, they have annual parliaments, they have building sessions, they, stuff like that. Those are, in essence, those are rituals. They do it ritualistically. You know what I'm saying? They have their greetings and things like that, where they break down the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So, and they do that, they do that every day, every other day. So they do it ritualistically. Like, so they can't run from that. Nobody in the conscious community can run from that. Like, even if you want to bring up a Jabari, I would assume he would admit that he falls under this 4 C's model when it comes to creeds, codes, and cultures, and even the 4th one, which is community. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Conscious community. They one big community, but it's different sects of communities within that one big community. You know what I'm saying? And And what a community is groups of people either formally or informally bound together by creed, code, or cultures, by the creed, code, or cultures that they share. So we see that in the conscious community, they have different beliefs, they have different origin stories, they have different moral, ethical systems and things like that. But the common denominator is that they have a objective to take priority over European culture, education, and civilization. You know what I'm saying? It's really just pushback against white supremacy in a nutshell. But I just brought that out to let these so-called spiritual but not religious people know that y'all do fall under a religious under a religion, whether you 5%er, like I said, whether you 5%er, Nation of Islam, Kemetic, atheist, Moorish, all across the board. So,
Right. I feel you on that too, and I like that you said that, because I feel that a lot of them like to use that in the conscious community as a cop out, because a lot of them are not practitioners of anything, and even when it comes to some of the Christians who I hear say that, not all, but some, I find that a lot of them don't, belong to a church or a local assembly, or, so they feel like pretty much I can just, I ain't saying like do what I want to do overall, but I can do what I want to do in essence, because I don't belong to a place where accountability is pressed on me. So if I feel like I did this, well, I can justify it myself because I'm spiritual. I ain't religious, and I feel like they take religion as that structure that the Bible talks about, and like you said, for the conscious community, that structure that the Bible speaks of, I feel as if they think if they say that they're not religious, which means they just don't believe in Jesus in the Bible, but they spiritual, I think it still speaks to the fact that they know that it's a God out there. I'm talking about the conscious community, and that it's some kind of standard that should be held, but they don't want to be held by the Christian standard or the biblical standard. You see what I'm saying? So they'll just say, well, I'm spiritual. You know what I'm saying? But spiritualism falls under religion, as a word, as a similarity, So like I just like that y'all brought that up yesterday, and for us to be able to speak on that, because as I said in the previous video, Jerome, no, I make posters about that all the time on Facebook, like, just showing the definition and showing the word, like, come on, man, if you say you believe in Christ, man, we're religious. It is what it is. But the thing that the Bible speaks on about religion is false religion. That's what's bad. It's nothing wrong with religion that's true, and we all know what that true religion is. It is the belief in Jesus Christ, that, he lived, he died for our sins, and that he rose again on that third day. That's true. Every other religion outside of that is a false religion, but it's still a religion nonetheless, And again, I just feel like people like to take the word religion off of it just so they can't be held accountable to the part of their religion where you have to actually practice it. You have to be a practitioner of that, and a lot of these people don't belong to any organizations, or even let alone following half of the religions that they left the Bible for in the first place. So to me, I think it's a cop out, and I think it's somewhat of an excuse on the conscious community part. On the Christian part, I just feel like it's just misinformation. A lot of people just
and nobody can I give the definitions out for the people, for the viewing audience, so they can have a reference points what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
This is Merriam-Webster. Since Merriam-Webster is pretty much universally recognized, especially English-speaking worlds, as an authority when it comes to definitions, etymology, the thesaurus, stuff like et cetera, et cetera. But I'm gonna start with religion. Definition of religion, and mind you, most definitions have multiple categories, because you can't just fit one thing in category, especially if a word's been around for a long time. So definition. 8.1, the state of religious. Okay. And the B part to that is the service and worship of God or the supernatural. Okay. And then the commitment or devotion to a religious faith or observance. Definition 2, a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. 3, scrupulous conformity, i.e. conscientiousness. Okay. 4, a cause, principle, or system of beliefs held to with, adore, and faith. So that's religion. As spiritual is 1, of relating to, consisting of, or affecting the spirit. Okay. Of relating to sacred matters. That's definition 2. The B part of the second definition is ecclesiastical rather than lay or temporal. Okay. 3, concerned with religious values. Put a star by that, because here in the definition of spiritual, you have religious. So, just, shots fired. 4, related or joined in spirit, which essentially means community, which Brother Jerome talks about. And 5, of relating to supernatural beings or phenomena. And the B part that is relating to or involving spiritualism or spiritualistic. And I put it like a subcategory of religious, because some people say, well, what about religious? Definition: relating to or manifesting faithful devotion to an acknowledged ultimate reality or deity. 2, of relating to or devoted to religious beliefs or observances. And 3, scrupulously and conscientiously faithful. And what I think is very important in that is, in religious, that first definition, relating to or manifesting faithful devotion to an acknowledged ultimate reality or deity. So even if I don't believe in the Christian God, well, if you have a reality that you believe in, the black man is God, God is light, the black woman is God, the universe, nature, any of those things, guess what you fall under based off the very definition of religious? You fall under that because you have a faithful devotion to an acknowledged ultimate reality.
There you go.
So the moment that you acknowledge something, and people play those games, well, it's not about you subscribing to a certain set of commandments or things like that. It's basically saying you have ultimate reality. And people give me that cop out, well, I don't have to follow your Bible to do what I want. But you know what? I bet you a bunch of y'all ain't going out here and doing bestiality. So you do have some, you have some set of moral code, some set of rules, some acknowledgement to know that, I'm not about to go and have sex with this dog outside. And people who do have sex with a dog is wrong. Now we describe it to the God that has put his reality upon our hearts. But y'all can, I don't know what y'all want to subscribe it to, but whatever you subscribe it to, whether it's self or outside of self, you have a devotion of a set of beliefs that was wrong is wrong and right is right. And I hate when they play that game with us. Well, your Bible says this, that, and the third. And I'm like, well, you don't know the New Testament, because the New Testament said the law is written on our hearts by the Spirit. See, we don't go around with the Bible in our hands every step of every second and every moment. Like, okay, did I do this wrong? Let me check the scripture if I did this wrong. No, because the Bible teaches us when we walk into this in the Spirit of the Lord, the Holy Spirit, that the law is written on our hearts. And so we operate based off that, because that is our ultimate reality, that we are religious and spiritual too. Because every Christian who is every Christian is spiritual, because the Spirit lives within you. So when you play those games with us and we're looking at you like, what are you talking about? Again, y'all may be spiritual. Y'all may have a different spirit you adhere to. Like nobody say, we may say that's a demonic or false spirit, but it's a spirit nonetheless. So when you play and you have a religious attitude towards whatever belief system that you have, even if you have a lack of belief system, guess what? You have a devotion to an acknowledged ultimate reality. So if your reality is atheism or agnosticism, that's your reality, and you have a devotion to it. So if your devotion is to say you hate the Abrahamic faiths, guess what? You're religious because your devotion is to disprove or call out all the Abrahamic faiths. That's your reality. So it's just crazy when people don't understand these definitions and then they go around and playing these games. And I'm like, what you doing? What you doing here? Like Jerome know my post yesterday, and a good brother that I know, he's saying, well, I can define things for myself. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, because I'm the God, the sacred is in me. And I say, okay, that's interesting. It's like, you sure you want to say that? But it was like, yeah, I'm the guy. And I'm saying, okay, well, let me ask you this. What language did you create this English language that you typing on Facebook? No. Did you create the phone that you are using or device, whether it be computer, tablet? You didn't create that. No. Did you create Facebook itself? No. What about the internet? Did you create that internet system provider that you have, or what about your cell phone provider? What about the actual cell phone? What about the code that allows you to even use this stuff simultaneously so it don't crash? You created none of these things, but you the God. So a God is contingent of subservient to other things. That's what you're saying. You the ultimate reality. And then the brother goes on to say, well, I don't have to define myself by Eurocentric terms. I can define spirituality as I so put. And I said, oh, okay, cool. So you can redefine things as you want to. He said, yeah. I said, okay, well, I guess a heart is a lung and a lung is a heart. Dude's like, what you mean?
One plus one equals two.
So if that's the case, then if a heart is a lung, then that means you can breathe out of your heart. Your heart breathes in oxygen and pumps out H2O, and your lung actually has it's a center for the heartbeat, and blood goes in and out of your lung to pump to the rest of your body. That's what you're saying. So when you have a heart attack, you really have a lung attack. And when you drown, it isn't that your lungs fill up with fluid, it's that your heart fills up with fluid so you can't breathe. Because that's the kind of games you play. And if you want to do that for yourself, that's fine. But I promise you, if you have a heart doctor and you go to your heart doctor and you tell him, well, it's not actually my heart, it's my lung, they'll look at you crazy. And if you insist on taking medicine that's meant for your lungs and say actually it's really for your heart, I hate to say it, but I don't know how much longer you're going to last. So terms matter. You know what I'm saying? Up is down. If you from the streets and nobody this, and Jerome, if you from the streets, they say you from California, you a blood in the Crip, and the street code or whatever the case is. Guess what? If you want to define it for yourself, say, well, I'm a blood, but I'm gonna just, I'm gonna wear blue and I'm a seawall. See how long that lasts. See how long that lasts, because you want to define it for yourself, right? Like the society and the definition of terms don't matter. You get to define it for yourself. So you go ahead, if you want gangbang, if you want to be a blood out here, go ahead and wear blue and go Crip walk and vice versa, and see how long that lasts for you. You know what I'm saying? So we can play those kind of games that I define it for myself, and that may work in your own house. But bro, the second you step out your household into the real world, we have terms. No matter where you at in the world, there's terminologies for everything. And if you think you're gonna go and just redefine stuff because you feel like it, good luck.
Facts. You ain't finna walk in that bank knowing you got $40 in your account and say, let me get out $100 million. They're gonna look at you like you're stupid. And you probably get security called on you. Somebody like me, 6'5", will have to walk up on you and put their hands on your shoulder and walk you up out this bank. Well, you don't define what's in my bank account. I define what's in my bank account. Yeah, go try it. Like you said.
Bro, I just, and just, I'm the creator. Me and Jerome talking about yesterday. Like, I'm the creator. Like, bro, like, if you are the divine, and you talking to me on Facebook, on social media, there are about 6 different levels that you have done nothing to create. You ain't create that. You ain't create that vehicle that you have. You ain't create the materials to build your house that you may live in or rent. You ain't create the gasoline. You ain't create no phone. You ain't create no Facebook. We know who created Facebook is. It ain't you.
You didn't even create yourself in the first place. So like,
you know what's crazy? It's like when people say that they the creator, they the divine, and all this and that. My question is, so like, what are you in between life and death? You know what I'm saying? And if they don't get the question, I'm asking, like, what control do you have over your life and your death? Because you definitely didn't control the fact that you were born, and naturally you're not gonna control the way that you die. You're just gonna die. So, I mean, how supreme are you? How divine are you when you are literally insufficient between life and death, bro? Like you have no real say so over life or death. You have no say so on when you were born, how you were born. You have no say so over when you're gonna die and how you're gonna die. So you are just as contingent as every other living thing on this planet. You're not a supreme being. You're not divine. You're not none of that. So to me, when they say that, they just expressing what I call a subjective delusion, because they can't prove it outside of their own psyche. So, you know.
And wrong, guess what? They try to play us. I got into a whole discussion with a dude about, he tried to use that same logic and say, well, what about your guy? What about Jesus? You know, he was killed and whatever. I'll say, hold on, pause your brakes, back it up. First of all, when you talk about born, God sent his self, through his son to be born. So he created he brought his own self into the physical world, first of all, according to the scriptures. So nobody created Jesus or the son. He was already there. He manifests himself into the world through the incarnation. And then you talk about being murdered. Well, you know, Jesus was murdered, whatever. I'll say, well, actually, it was murder is not sacrifice.
The Bible says Jesus gave up. The Bible says Jesus gave up his life because no man could take it from him. So he freely gave up himself.
So that means God cannot be murdered. So just so you know, he freely gave up himself. And just so what about he died or whatever? What does the scripture say? That his physical body was taken. He told y'all that his temple was going to be taken down and been brought back up 3 days later. And he brought it right back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then even the scriptures say what happened in the meantime during that time. So y'all, you know, it's just one of those things like, man, you can't, I always tell people, don't go to my scriptures. And not mine, you know, I'm not saying like it's mine, like we own it with it, but don't go to the scriptures when you don't subscribe to it and try to pick and choose and say, well, you know, your scriptures say Jesus was killed. Actually, it says he was sacrificed. That means
you go back to debunk that meme, Byron. You know, that meme that's been going around lately, or people been saying stuff like, well, how can Jesus help me? Jesus couldn't even help himself, as if Jesus had no power to just stop all that stuff, as if he wasn't God. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but that was his will to die for our sin. And the only way sin could be eradicated was through blood. And what blood is better than the blood of God?
Nobody.
Like, come on, man.
And what did the scripture say what happened when Jesus gave up? What happened? Did not the earth shake, the sky turned black, the veil was split? The scripture even say bodies came up out the ground, bro.
Preach, man. Preach.
They ain't what y'all talking about. This is letting you know, even the Romans who was killing, like, surely this man's the son of God. Because basically they're saying, bro, they didn't kill thousands of people before, and this ain't never happened. Never happened like this. Come on, bro.
Come on, man. And bro, they go back and the tomb is open, and they so worried they just started lying. Hey, we gonna say that the disciples stole the body, because they couldn't even deny it. We put that body in that tomb. We put that rock in front of that tomb, man. You know what I'm saying? And they couldn't even deny it, to the fact where they had to come even make up a story, man. That's powerful. You know what I'm saying? Jesus did exactly what he said he was going to do. And again, nobody took his life from him. He freely laid it down to accomplish the purpose at hand. You see what I'm saying? So yes, Jesus did not only save himself, I mean, could have saved himself, but what he did saves us. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they got to come on, man.
You know, that it doesn't go back to, like Jerome was saying, that whole like I'm divine thing. Since I'm divine, I get to redefine stuff like that. And then, you know, I love the whole well, you know, you caught up in the white man's education and you subscribing to the Eurocentric education. And I'm like, I get what you're saying to an extent, but at the end of the day, again, taking emotions out of it, you still got to communicate in this land. and English is how we communicate. I would love to be able to speak and know a lot of native African languages. And one day, I mean, I plan on learning something more. But as a citizen of the United States of America, I learned English. And English has rules to its language. It has how you communicate. It has definitions to its language. And every language isn't one-to-one, but how we communicate is how we communicate. Like,
and it's also the lingua franca, bro. Other nations teach their kids in school how to speak their native tongue and English, because English is the language of the world right now. So
it's the language of the world. And if it changes again in another 100, 200 years, I mean, they say it may be Mandarin Chinese, and it may be. It could, it changes.
We'll be dead, but
we'll be dead. But at the end of the day, like, it don't change the principle. When you learn the language, you gotta learn certain things about the language.
That's right.
And so it's just weird, bro. I'm just like, so you redefine, you have an issue, you speaking to me in English, telling me that you have a problem with the English language? Like, that don't make sense. You subscribing to that Eurocentric language and its rules to define spirituality but bro, you speaking to me in English. And then someone else tells me, well, everything, all this stuff is man-made. And I'm like, to break it down philosophically, I'm like, bro, all words are man-made, just so you know. Like, if it rains outside, there's a terminology we use for rain. It's called rain. But that doesn't mean that when rain, whenever what we call rain first happened, it didn't mean that we made rain exist. But we put a term into it, and whatever culture they use for that terminology. But that's how we convey. That's how we convey what it is. We don't go and say, man, there's this wetness coming down from the sky and these clouds that are dripping down water so as to drink. Or we just say rain, because that's the definition of it. Playing, again, games. So when we say religious and spirituality, we're like, yeah, like, look at the definitions of spirituality, or spiritual, look at the definitions of religion. And we're not saying they're not mutually exclusive. Means that you can't say I'm not religious and spirit. Everybody's religious. And if you are religious, you are spiritual in some way, form, or fashion. Even if you atheist or agnostic, you are spiritual in some form or fashion. It's a spirit that you have, a spirit of atheism with you, a spirit of agnosticism, but that's your spirit. Like, that's what you subscribe to. And so this idea that and because that's your spirit, you have a religiosity to what your spirit, or what you subscribe to as your spirit. People can play those kind of games if they want to, but we have
somebody would say, oh, you're not religious, you're spiritual. Oh, that's deep. When did deep become dumb and down? Like, when did that start? Like, it is crazy out here in these social media streets. Because like, you rarely, I know where y'all stay at, but I don't know what y'all environment is like. But like, I don't really meet nobody out here in Texas who talk like that. You know what I'm saying? Who be out here, oh, I define my, or I, I this, I that. You know what I'm saying? And it's they either, hood, ghetto, all that, or they, middle class, upper class, and all that. But ain't nobody out here just trying to, well, not that I know of, and that's just trying to sound so deep where it just sounds dumb. It's either a guy real, but I'm doing what I want to do, you know what I'm saying, despite of what I know is right, or hey man, I just ain't trying to hear that right now type stuff, or it's, hey, I believe in God, trying to get it together, or it's, the holier than thou types and all that. I ain't saying everybody believe in God, but ain't nobody out here just wilding out like the people who I see online and on social media from some of these other cities and places and all that, man. Because I would love to talk to somebody in person who's like Pianki or some of the brothers that Jerome meet, and some of the brothers that you probably have met, Byron. Like, I would love to talk to some of them type of dudes and have a one-on-one relationship with them in person rather than just online, man. But like, I don't know. I just don't get when did dumb and down become like to the point to where people think what's being said is deep. And we got many computers in our pocket, man. You can just go look a word up. Like, you ain't even got to go get a book no more like we used to have to do before cell phones. You have to go get a dictionary. Now you just go type it in.
And not to cut you off about it, Jerome, you saw this too. One of the brothers said in my thing was like, well, you subscribing to your books. That's your problem. You're reading books to understand stuff. You need to understand your spiritual download. And I was like, spiritual download, bro, what you talking about? And so he was like, he used the word, and I said, bro, there's no word your spirit didn't give you that word because you already have a foundation to understand that word. So Jerome, because brother says, you need to look at your book because lean not on your own understanding. And I was like, bro, do you realize that's exactly what I'm doing? I'm not leaning on my own understanding. I'm looking at the definitions of the words so I don't make stuff up as I go.
That's the Bible, what he said, though. Lean not to your own understanding. He don't believe in it. You just quoted something from a book. Right.
You don't even believe in it, but you quoting it because you trying to validate your point by proof text. And man, that come on, man. It's like almost all of them do that. And that I never understood that.
Bro, how do you skip over book all the way to download? Download is a new word. So do we flip it and say, hey man, everything y'all believe is on the computer screen? You know, how dumb would that sound? It sounds just as dumb as when y'all say everything y'all believe is in a book. Everything came out of books is somebody figuring something out. I probably ain't gonna, well, none of us gonna be here in the next 120 years. So, well, let me write it down. Why? So I can pass it to the next person, pass it to the next generation.
No.
How does that somehow become something dumb? Again, when did trying to sound deep becomes stuff like this?
And Ron, you know this, as you saw, when did religion be conflated to, oh, I don't go to church anymore? And I'm like,
right.
What did I say anything about church? It's like, well, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, but I just don't do church anymore, so I'm not in religion. And I'm like, what? Like, y'all just, people just be throwing stuff together. I'm like, that's not what you saying, and saying you don't believe in church anymore. We can have that conversation, but that's not what religion is defined by. I gave y'all the definitions.
Hold on, bro. I just thought about somebody you said to, not to cut you off.
No, you good.
It would be better for people to say I'm religious, not spiritual, because then you can say, well, I don't believe in angels and demons and all. Really, if they said it the other way around, that would make more sense. Come to think about it, I just want to throw that out there.
That's right. That's right.
I just thought about that. Like, come on, man. And look at that. I ain't even looking at the definition. That's just logic and common sense. But like I said, I don't know, man. People, I don't know if it's the code of personality. I don't know if oh, I just heard somebody say something that sounds good, or like really what is it? But I'm really just into people who saying that they're about truth, teaching the truth, putting out truth, but then still putting out stuff like this, And what's weird to me
is this, bros. Is when people tell me that that they spiritual, not religious, because they don't want to be held accountable for stuff, but at the same time they still have a moral code. And I'm like, explain how you can have a moral or ethical code, but you're not religious. You know what I'm saying? Because because I just said that again, religion, the second definition, a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, belief, and practices. So you have a moral code, an ethical code. You know that 1 + 1 is 2. You know that, but you don't believe in religion. You spiritual. But again, like I said earlier, you know that you're not gonna go and have sex with a dog. Like, so what is the code that makes you know that that's wrong?
Right.
Tell me what makes you know, like, I shouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? It's just, hey.
It's frustrating sometimes, man. Like, especially trying to have a civil conversation with some of these people to try to show that, we trying to meet you where you at, and then you face stuff like this. But again, it's from people who claiming to be into the truth, or claim to be conscious, or claim to be woke. And then it's like, how can you claim that while saying stuff like this? Go ahead, Ron. It's crazy.
Hey man, it goes back to the 4 C's, man, for me. You know what I'm saying? And they fall under every one of the 4 C's. You know what I'm saying? Whether you atheist, atheist, agnostic, whether you try to mix comedic spirituality with atheism or whatever you're trying to do, you still fall under that model. Whatever gumbo they try to make, you know what I'm saying, about mixing different ideologies and stuff like that, they still gonna ultimately fall under that model. It's still gonna be religious in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so for them to just try to deny it is either it shows some ineptitude about what religion really is at its core, or they just trying to avoid some accountability, like y'all brothers were saying a few minutes ago. They're trying to avoid some accountability in the way that they live in, man. Because even when I was in the conscious community and you had these people talking about my aunt this and my aunt that, and even when I had a recent conversation with some brothers and sisters over the phone, and they was talking about my aunt this and my aunt that, but y'all ain't really exhibiting my aunt if you yelling and saying all this disrespectful stuff towards me because I'm a Christian, and y'all don't even understand where I'm even coming from with it. Because most of the people that I've had conversations with since I become a Christian, who claim to be conscious or woke or follow this or follow that, after they have a conversation with me, they be like, man, I don't usually talk to Christians that's like you, because like y'all said, we can meet them where they at. We don't have to agree, but we can meet them where they at and be like, okay, so what about boom, boom, boom? And then they, make them think a little bit. And so, that's all it's about for me, man. It's all about planting that seed in the mind of somebody, so somebody else can come along and water it. You know what I'm saying? Right. But they just some people make it harder than it needs to be. They try to make dialogue very difficult.
Very deep.
But it is.
I'm being deep when I say this, man. But I want to say this real quick. Based off of what we're saying today, knowing that everything is a religion, I want to read this study that happened in 2016 real quick. It say other studies have noted a positive relationship. A 2016 Pew Center global study on religion and education around the world ranked Jews as the most educated, followed by Christians. Now we know that Jews began Christianity, so put us in the. They saying that this is the smartest religion in the whole world out of all the religions. Period. And when you also go in to read the study, it says that it makes the most sense out of all the worldviews. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, of course, we want people to be saved and to go to heaven and believe in Jesus, but on your own volition. We don't want to force anybody to do anything. But when you read like data and or comparing notes and information and stuff like that, like, man, the Bible is the only thing that does make complete sense. I mean, I get that it's stuff in the Bible like, supernatural things, because I notice now a lot of people don't even want to fight the Bible on things that we can prove and things that we know. Now they just totally run to the supernatural, talking donkey, talking snake, talking, all this now. But this is why that can't be debunked. Science don't say that supernatural things don't happen. Supernatural things happen every single day. What science says is that it don't deal with supernatural things because most supernatural things are one-off. It's not nothing that can be repeated. It's not nothing that can be tested. It's so if I can't repeat it, then how can I get in front of you for you to test it and measure it and smell it and see it and taste it and feel it and experience it and all that? So again, nothing says that supernatural things do not exist, period. So I don't even know where people get that from. So if we see supernatural things in the Bible, which are supposed to be one-off, then if you can't debunk that or the information leading up to that, then how can you even have a mindset to think, well, this couldn't have possibly happened? Now, if I just want to say this real fast too, when it comes to like the talking donkey and all that stuff, if the God of the Bible is the God of this world, right? What's stopping him from doing whatever he want to do? Because notice, the Bible didn't say the donkey talked on his own. The Bible said God made it talk. The Bible didn't say that the fish happened to swallow Jonah on his own. The Bible said God made the fish go do that. Like all these supernatural occurrences that we see in the Bible gives an explanation saying that God did it. So it's not even saying like, oh, a regular human just jumped up one day and decided to defy the laws of the whole universe. No, the person who created the universe will be able to defy the laws of the universe, and that makes total, complete 100% sense. You know what I'm saying? And it's no getting around that type stuff. So again, man, I just want to say like a lot of those, I don't want to say arguments, because to me that even arguments. A lot of those statements that be made and people trying to sound deep or feel like they have some kind of super understanding that other people don't have by saying that I get to define things in the way that I want to define it. Yes, you can, but then somebody's going to put you in a straitjacket and put you in a rubber room because what you're defining is not lining up with reality. That's called being crazy. That's called being insane. Those are real words. You know, there's no such thing as a correct free thinker. We should think inside of, huh?
I was going to add on to what you said. The Bible doesn't, every time that these supernatural instances occur in the Bible, it's for a specific reason. It ain't just arbitrarily, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's God's trying to communicate something. So they, you know, when people say, well, where are talking donkeys today? Well, there weren't no just normalized talking donkeys back then either. It had, that's one instance where it was a specific.
Hold on, real quick. Now watch, how come they never bring up the burning bush? Because they can understand that God is the reason why the burning. Come on, man. Go ahead, bro.
No, I'm saying. And then two, if we want to talk about just supernatural amongst religions, period, name me a religion or spiritual tradition in the world that don't have an element of the supernatural to it in their descriptions. There is no. So when you at that point, you can't point at the Bible and say, see, they're supernatural. Well, if that's your barometer, if that's your foundation that you don't believe in the supernatural, then that means you got to debunk every single other spiritual tradition on human earth to say that their supernatural stuff is false.
Miracles, bro. It's supernatural when a person have a plane crash or a car get ran over by an 18-wheeler and it's squished up the size of a tin can and that person walked out scot-free without a mark on them. That's supernatural. They can't tell you how that happened. There are things called medical miracles where the machines that science have gives you all this data. And based off that data, they tell you, hey, you have this long to live, or you're going to live for this long, or you're going to do this if this happened. There are people who live way beyond those data, and the doctors, they're not embarrassed, but they're flabbergasted. That's like, okay, well, hey, the machines did say this. You define that. I'm one of those medical miracles. I'm supposed to die at like 17 based off of the heart condition that I have. I didn't have open heart surgery until I was 33 years old. I didn't even think nothing of it, wasn't worried nothing about it. I saw my childhood doctor that was ended up being the doctor of my daughter, and she was like, "Oh, nice to see you alive." I'm like, "What you mean?" She was like, "Oh, you must have had the surgery." I'm like, "What surgery?" She was like, "You were supposed to have surgery once you left." Because, you know, once you stop going to your kid doctor, you got to go to an adult doctor. Right. So once I left her, I had my other doctor. So she was assuming that I had already had the surgery because now I'm 33 years old. I'm like, no, man, I haven't had no surgery at all. She is amazed, bro. They fly in 8 doctors from all over the world, 8 of them, bro. They are amazed. I was one of the first cases in Dallas to have this disease that I have or whatever. So and I was her first patient back then. You know what I'm saying? She didn't want all kind of awards and stuff off her studies based off of me. So of course, me being her first patient, you know, of course she wanted to get it right. So long story short, she was like, what insurance and all this do you got it? I'm like, I ain't got no insurance, blah, 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 blah. She was like, well, let me schedule you an appointment. Bro, she scheduled me an appointment, did all the x-rays, all this and that, everything just had, bro, I had the whole open heart surgery for free, bro. No money out of pocket, no nothing. And was supposed to be dead 20 some, 12 some years before that, bro. Lived out past that, doing good, wasn't having none of the effects outside of the height, it caused everything on my body to get real long, hands, height, legs, arms, all that. Outside of that, bro, none of that stuff. And that was a miracle, according to them. So go back to how we were saying. If you give me a second. So back to how many were saying. When it comes to miracles and supernatural things that science admits that they can't detect, that they can't pull up, no scientist worth his weight in gold will tell you that supernatural things don't occur. Now, one of them, they will tell you that science doesn't deal with it. So go ahead, bro.
No. I was just saying amen, bro. I was saying yes and amen, bro. And I just want to make a public service announcement to everybody. If you subscribe to my app, you subscribe to religion.
All day.
If you subscribe to the Code of Hammurabi, you subscribe to religion. If you subscribe to Ifa, Voodoo, Yoruba, Santeria, you subscribe to religion. If you subscribe to science, you subscribe to religion. If you subscribe to an agnostic or atheistic worldview, guess what, my brother and my sister? You subscribe to a religion by the definition of the term.
The word.
There ain't no way around.
Is it a true religion or a false religion? That's what it comes down to now. Once you get that, once you get what Byron just said, notice those are not his words. He's reading from the definition. Those definitions was definitions before he was born. So now it comes down to you updating your argument, or not even your argument. You ain't got to argue. Update your position now and figure out, okay, well, now that I am in a religion, let me test and see if this religion is true. That's what it comes down for your soul salvation. Go ahead, Jerome. You ain't jumping in a minute.
Yeah. I mean, what Byron just said. I mean, it's no getting around that. I don't care what worldview you subscribe to. It's no getting around that fact. So, like you said, if somebody's gonna be really honest, they would have to check whatever worldview they subscribe to, and they would have to put it up against certain epistemological questions, about what ontology, like why we exist.
The same, pretty much every question y'all ask us as Christians that don't make sense to y'all about the Bible, ask them same questions about your religion. My bad, Jerome. All of them.
Yeah, I mean that too. But you gotta be able to. You got to be able to, your worldview has to be able to answer questions about origin, meaning, purpose, and destiny. Now, if they can't answer those four questions, or they don't have a position or explanation for those four things, then you have to reevaluate your worldview. Like, we understand that a lot of y'all have run from Christianity and the Bible because either you think it's the white man.
You cut out on us, bro.
You cut out on us wrong. You cut out on us wrong. But I know exactly what I'm saying, man. It's just, it's you like you said, nobody. You gotta hold that same mirror up. And here's the thing, to not home about, because we all do Christian shit. Guess what? Christianity has been global since its beginning, and so it has ingratiated itself. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, Ron. Oh, Ron, you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, bro, you fighting in and out on.
But I'm just gonna say Christianity has had in contact with pretty much not every single one. Now, I want to say this. Now, it has not touched every single one, but pretty much just about all the global religions and spiritual traditions at this point. And those same questions have been asked. And people have had to really look at their own things. Some people still decided what they had was good enough for them, and some people, went in depth and was like, you know what, this Christian world, this biblical worldview is true. And I said this last night because I just said this again. When people say I don't follow religion, I follow way of life, and I don't follow Christianity, I follow way of life. Just so you know, one of the original terms for what we call Christianity today, and there's a bunch of them, was the way.
They don't even know where it comes from, man.
The way, because it was a way that they lived. There's a way
of life.
There's a way of life, a way of being, the way of community, a way of worship, the way our fruits have to manifest from the spirit into our community, into the world. So,
Jerome, is you back with us?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you now, bro.
Oh yeah, man. Those excellent points, man. And like, and even like when I engage certain people who have different worldviews, and I start asking them questions about ontology and origin and meaning, purpose, destiny, all that, they can't give a proper answer. So I'm like, you left Christianity to cling to a worldview that doesn't even really give you a proper answer about why you exist or
No answers.
why
No, bro,
reality exists and
that's
stuff like
crazy,
that.
bro. I like what Byron brought up a second ago, as well as you, Jerome, because he brought it up based off what you said. And when you said destiny, bro, like destiny, like of course I care about origins to a certain extent. I care about stuff in the middle to a certain extent, and what makes me care about it more is so that I can answer questions for other people. But for me, the biggest one that you named on that list was destiny, man. I want to know what's next. Like I want to know what happens after this. I want to know, and if I don't know, then I should be searching. And I feel like everybody should be searching. And for people to have different worldviews, as you said, that don't even try to answer those questions. If it's wrong or right, for you to be in a worldview that don't even try to at least answer the question of destiny, that's weird to me, bro.
And nobody's wrong. I want to bring this up because this is something that's always kind of itched at me, and this is a good point. I mean, we talking brothers now, so I might as well get it out there.
And jump in here, Jerome, when you can, bro. I know you always sit back and wait. As you see me and Byron cutting each other out, we stepping in. Jump in here too, bro. Go ahead, Byron.
A question I gotta ask. I mean, not ask, but I always wondered. For those who were former Christians or former Bible believers, I've noticed that they fall essentially into two categories. If they were an unlearned Christian or like a not well-researched Christian, you tend to see them not being as learned and researched in the new tradition that they're in. Like they can't answer certain questions because they haven't researched it yet. So I'm like, you was confident in the things that you felt you didn't know in Christianity to leave it. But then likewise, there's a lot of stuff you don't know in your own tradition, but you see that it's true. So it's like on both sides, you still unlearn on both sides. Like as I said, if you was a piss poor Christian, now you're a piss poor whatever you are now. But because you're not a Christian, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm awakened, but you can't answer certain questions about your own tradition that you're in. And then the second category is those who leave Christianity, and then they become these like know everything about this other tradition that they subscribe to now. And I'm just like, like the people say today, where was that same energy when you was a Christian? Because now you can tell me all of these words in these different languages from other people's tradition, and you can tell me about this dynastic king going here and this and this, and you can research and know all these scholars. But where was that same energy when you was in Christianity? Did you learn the Hebrew terms for this stuff? Did you look at the Jewish writings? Did you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls? Did you look at the global Christian writings? Do you look at the church fathers and their writings on these topics that you found issues with? It's like, I don't really know how I can answer that. And I'm like, well, people wrote about this in the 3rd and 4th century. They have some pretty good writings on these topics that are tough, that are tough biblical. No, you didn't do that. But you go to whatever other tradition, and now you can name off 10 different scholars and know all this stuff. But I'm like, man, so you didn't even get Christianity that same energy.
I know I did.
You went to one pastor. You went to one pastor, bro. You went to one pastor or two pastors, and they couldn't answer it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, I'm done with Christianity because this pastor.
If you went to one pastor or two pastors, I know I did.
Yeah, I can't answer it, so I'm done. But you can go to whatever tradition, and you can find 10 different Afrocentric scholars and read all their books. And this person said this, and this person said that. I'm like, oh man, that's cool. Like, so when you had an issue with Christianity, what authors did you read? Did you know that this church father wrote about this in the 4th century? Oh man, I didn't know
that. Before they even get to the level that you at, bro, before they even get to where you at, you ain't even read. You've been knowing the Bible since you've been born, grew up with it in your family and all that. You ain't even read the whole Bible, but you done read 10 books from 10 different authors in the conscious community in less than a year or two.
And if they read it, they only read the King James version. And then that's it.
Go ahead,
the King James version say this, that, bro. Like, I'm sorry, bro. If your lexicon is only based on the King James version, you need to update yourself. Because there's updated versions.
Be myself. So.
Yeah, everywhere. You know, you gotta have different, like, bro, what commentary, and again, it's one of those two things. It is you, if you were a piss poor Christian,
That's right.
then you equate that to where your tradition, to where, like, even Jerome, no, I ain't gonna say names or whatever, but Jerome will research somebody else's tradition and ask them questions, and they ain't got the answer for it. And
Bro,
Jerome, this your tradition.
Jerome be
Jerome be
killing
like,
these dudes.
this your documents, and you don't know your own stuff. But yeah, you so right about Christianity, right? Like, you just knew it was false, but you can't even answer stuff in your own tradition. Like,
that's why that's my co-host right there, bro. This dude here will look up your stuff and chop your neck off with it. Like I don't even. If I don't already know, I mean, I care more about the Bible than anything else. So of course, I know more about the Bible than any other thing outside of it. And I may know about your stuff on the surface, just surface level stuff. Hey, Jerome, oh man,
Jerome be killing with it.
Bro, he be killing it, bro. He be.
And the opposite side, bro, I'm like, dang, man, you know all this stuff about, you know, every dynastic king that ever existed, you know, every pharaoh, every normal, bro, that's dope. You know, everything, that's dope. But you can't quote every single book of the Bible, but you say you was in Christianity. You can't exegete a verse, but you was in Christian. Like, bro, what was that same energy though?
What was it?
What was that saying? And again, I'm not forcing you to go back. I'm just saying, like the inconsistency is, like, you wasn't getting that same energy when you was in a tradition that you was more than likely born into. So you already had a leg up. And
what
like
you just said, Byron, is what brought me back to the Bible. If I didn't come back to Christianity, I'm exactly what you just said, bro. I left the Bible, did all that. I didn't know half or nothing about nothing. Like you said about the KJV, I didn't even know what a KJV only is. And half these people is, oh, y'all read from the KJV. You don't even know why people say that. And, like, I had no clue about most of the stuff. I was just like everybody else. I know Moses crossed the Red Sea. I know Jesus walked on water. You know, I know he rose from the dead. I know grandmama them said, don't do this, don't do that. Mama them said God was going to get me. Well, hey, I smoked, I drank, I rap, I got chicks. I'm living that lifestyle. So it's like, I ain't trying to hear all that. And, man, let me go find some. And then giving that stuff honest study, I had to check myself and be like, okay, well, let me go give an honest study of Christianity too, then of some of the same stuff. And it just came full circle, man. And it took some years, but it came full circle because it's like, once you do an honest study of this stuff, man, ask all the questions you want to ask. I don't care what it is. Ask all of them. Go find a religion, or since y'all don't like religion, go find a belief system that answers these, or at least gives an answer to all, not some, not half, not to all of those questions, man. And you ain't gonna find one better. Go ahead, Roman.
Yeah, man, it's just like with the situation where, you know, I ain't gonna say his name because, you know, I respect the brother, man, but he just overstepped his bounds when he started talking like he had just mastered the Bible and mastered Christianity and this and that. So I was like, okay, we're gonna see. So I went into, you know, his worldview, you know, looked over his stuff and started formulating questions and started asking him this stuff. And, you know, he had to go back to his elders and confirm it. And 9 times out of 10, you know, what I was telling him was true. So, you know, it's just, you can't talk down on somebody else's tradition that they subscribe to when you haven't even begun to master your own. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't even know, like, I can ask you questions about your own tradition or tell you stuff about your own tradition and you ain't even aware of it. You know what I'm saying? But your elders are aware of it. And, you know, stuff probably your elders not even aware of. I'm asking you about this and you denying it at first, but then when you going back and checking and you seeing that it's true.
I would hate to be a non-believer and mix you in the chat room, bro. And I'm finna hand the mic back up right to you, but I would hate to have mixed you in the chat room, bro, because some of the same stuff you're saying is, like I said, is what made me come back for the people who actually go research what the person you're talking to is saying. And bro, I would have hate to mix you in the chat room and I'm walking around here saying, I believe in whatever it is, so I believe in that. And then you didn't went to go tell me something about what I think I believe that I don't know. And then I went to go look it up and was like, bro, I would be killing myself that I didn't know that before you told me, bro. But go ahead, man.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I don't really do it to, I don't do it out of a sense of ego or just, trying to be malicious or nothing like that. It's just like like I'm doing it really in defense because y'all coming to us like y'all know everything about our
Definitely.
tradition, and y'all
Definitely.
saying, oh, this, that, the third, your God created evil, or this, that, and the third. And I'm like, bruh, like, first of all, you don't know the contextual understanding of the scripture that you're using. But let me ask you this about your tradition, because it's always seems like it's a problem for the most part when we start questioning them about their tradition. You know what I'm saying? They make it seem like we deflecting. Nah, we ain't deflecting, but we want to y'all. It's make it balanced. Y'all love to talk about. Well, some of y'all like to talk about balance. Make it balanced. Like if y'all gonna
Mm-hmm.
question us about our worldview, why not have us question y'all about y'all worldview? And I give Pianki credit, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't even consider Pianki a part of the conscious community. I'm just bringing
Yeah.
him up because he's the host of this platform. He don't mind being questioned about his worldview at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
And
I
anytime
give
he's wrong or yield, he will agree and be like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. Like all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
And nobody, you did this the other night. When I had jumped off, I still listened to the repeat. And Jerome, I do this all the time when people say stuff about the Bible, Christianity. The first thing I go to is like, oh, okay. So you tell me you researched the whole global Christian history and this is what you came up with? And people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, so you telling me there's no commentary in Christian history? Because, this 2021, we ain't the first people to read this Bible. We ain't the first
Right.
Christians. This thing been going on for 2,000 years. And you talk about Judaism, that's before then. So they've got, but it's endless commentaries on people asking and answering these hard questions. And so I'm like, everything I'm saying is not coming out of just my mind. Somebody has written, sat, and thought about this stuff from halfway or full way across the world in a language and culture that I don't even know. But now, because of technology and language, I can read and understand and say, okay, this is how they said this. So when people say random stuff like your God created evil, I'm just like, oh, okay, what commentary did you read to say that? Because I know in like the 5th century, this person in Asia Minor was writing on that same issue.
There you go.
And they did a full exegete of what this what this means, and et cetera, et cetera.
But then, Byron, if the answers that we give to those questions, let's just say evil, how you saying? If the answers that we are giving to evil, according to whoever the creator is, if that's not the answer, and I'm not asking you this, I'm saying it rhetorical to them. If that's not the answer, then what is then? Evil is here. That's a reality. We all can see it. If the answer that we're given according to the biblical worldview isn't the answer, then according to anybody who don't believe in the Bible, then why does evil exist? If evil does not exist so that everybody can be justified, and let's just get cutthroat, everybody can be justified in going to hell. Everybody can be justified in having some on their record as to say that you need a savior. So since evil is here, and we can give all other reasons. I'm just narrowing it down to that reason, y'all. I know y'all get me. Yeah. So if that's the reason why evil is here, I mean, if that's not the reason why evil is here, then what other explanation is there? If there's not going to be a judgment day, if there's not going to be a reward day, if there's not going to be a day where somebody go to heaven because they, I ain't gonna say did good because that's not the truth, but let's just say did good, meaning following Christ and all that. If they did good and they're not going and they are going to get rewarded, and they did bad and they're not going to get punished, what is the purpose of evil then? Why isn't this just a perfect world? If karma is true, hey man, you do something bad and you're going to get that bad back. If you do something good and you're going to get that good. I done did a bunch of good that I've never got rewarded for. I've done a bunch of bad that I've never got punished for. I know people who are dead right now as well as everybody else, because all of us know celebrities and people who we can connect with, just who are more famous than us. People have done bad things that they've never got punished for and died. They've done good things that they've never got rewarded for and died. So that can't be true. So like, what other explanation if the biblical explanation isn't true? And since people like Jerome Byron and myself and other UA people now, we are starting to challenge y'all and put y'all on defense because y'all already know the answer to our questions. If you've been around that long or if y'all have been engaging with Christians that long, y'all already know the answers to, the answers we're going to give to some of y'all questions. Y'all mock them, y'all make fun of it. Okay, that's cool. But if those are not the answers to those questions, then when we ask y'all those same questions, what is the answer? And let's make that line up with, first off, reality, second, reason, and then logic.
And that's what I love. I love about what I keep saying all the time, the global historic Christianity, is that I don't have to make stuff up. I don't have to read, like I can go and read, and even more stuff is coming out now because things are being translated, but I can go and read and see like how Christians have wrestled with this text and wrestled with these things and wrestled with these worldviews to where, these answers are there. So when people say certain things and they were former Christians, and again, this is not because this is a challenge for us Christians too. We need to do this too. We need to understand that we have a historic faith. We have a global faith, and that we don't have to all of a sudden just, sit and just do it on our own. We got a whole, as Paul said, we got a cloud of witnesses with us, bro. So it's stuff that we can come together on and reason and look at the text and look at these worldviews and these answers to where I just hear people like, okay, that's nice. Is that true? And 9 times out of 10, it amazes me how, good learned brothers and sisters can know every single text about Kemet and the commentaries and what people said and stuff like that. But if I ask you like, man, what did Tertullian say about this in Christianity? And they look at me with the stale face like, who? What? I'm like, well, he's an African Christian from the 2nd, 3rd century that wrote about the same issue, and we got the text on it. And they look at me and Jerome, they look at us like, what you mean you talk about? Bro, we did a whole show with 2 Christians from 2 different traditions, right? 2 different traditions that talked about something inter-Christian. And unless you are in Christianity and understand the historic implications of either side, you don't even get it.
Shout out to Vocab Malone and Jay Norm. Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to what I'm saying? And so people don't even understand. So when they start just throwing stuff like, well, y'all believe that Eve was deceived by this. So, like, bro, do you even know what serpent? And Job and Satan came or whatever. Like, did the text say that was Satan? The devil, as y'all said, like, have you actually read the commentaries and what this person's role was? What is Satan? What does it mean? What is the Hashatan? What is the devil? What is Lucifer? Because they had to even within Christianity, we had to fix that stuff because people are not understanding these terminologies, bro.
Real quick before you go in, I think people don't realize this either based off what you just said. Yeah, we have different denominations and different, sects and all that though. And I'm not talking about the official record number of why they consider everybody a Christian under that number, right? I ain't talking about that number, but whatever this number is right here, the belief in Christianity, like Byron said, on a global scale as pertaining to things that are true, not things that I had to make up, Byron had to make up, somebody before us, somebody. For 2,000 years, there's a uniform belief that is true among all Christians from that time period to this time period that is global. And it's the largest number out of any other belief system, bro. That's heavy, bro. That is heavy, bro. That is heavy, Byron.
That's it.
What you just said, bro. That is heavy, bro. All these people throughout different generations, different time periods, different frames for the last 2,000 years. If you want to, if y'all like to go by numbers, who was first, who the largest, which I don't, but let's just go by that right now. The largest number of people who agree throughout generations is Christianity.
And it wasn't about no sword. It wasn't about no boogeyman, white man coming knock people upside the head.
None of that. I'm under its own truth merits. Under people and there we go, bro. That's why I said what I said at first. We're not talking about the number. No, I know you get it, but that's why I said it first. We're not talking about the number that they just classify all Christians under. I'm only talking about Christians who are genuinely Christians and people who converted, like you're talking about, based on his own merits and his own truth claims. Even if we was to take that number and compare it to any other number in any other religion, Christians who believe in the Bible without being forced, like Byron said, without having to, whatever, all that. We have a uniformity across the world throughout 2,000 years of generations. That's a truth. Like, come on, bro. That's powerful.
And nobody to add to you. And it's not just, blind, deaf, and dumb common folk neither. We talking about skilled, learned people from all over the globe, people who were royalty, people who've been educated since birth that know like 10 different languages, people who are scholars in their own languages, in their own cultures, all being faced with this stuff. So it ain't just no jump. Because they would say, oh, they were just blind, deaf. No, but we talking about people that knew all kind of stuff. And they got this and they still understood it. And they're like, and they freely was like, you know what? This make the most word view sense, bro. That's why I say, bro, I'm not trying to pull straws on people and trying to big dog anybody. I'm not, because that's not what we do. But when you try to put us up and just try to hold me, like, bro, you can't hold me just to the United States. You can't hold me just to Louisiana. You can't hold nobody to Texas or Jerome to say, you can't hold me to that. I'm not, as a Christian, what? You can't even hold me to the United States. You can't even hold me to 2020 or 2021.
Come on, man.
2000 years. And we're talking about the Old Testament. That holds all the way back. So when people start speaking on this stuff, bro, y'all not even from those regions over there. You talking about this person exists and that person exists. Go to those regions and talk to the people that's been there since been there.
And they'll tell you. The majority of them over there Christians, just like in America.
Oh, it's oppressive. And then shout out to our brothers and sisters over there that's dying daily. Daily. Let me say this one more time for the people. That's dying daily over there. Bro,
I like what you said about the Old Testament, bro. And this one thing that get me, bro. Just on this subject, I'm not talking about every other. I don't care what they're talking about when they're talking about, when was Christianity on the continent of Africa? Even though we can prove that in the 1st century. I want to say this, bro. They act as if the Old Testament and Judaism and all that wasn't in Africa first. So what are y'all talking about? Christianity is a continuation of the Old Testament. So of course they already was Christians and inherited like just based on what you just said, just made me think of that. It's like it kills me when they be like, well, Jesus and them didn't reach the continent and bro, they already had the Old Testament. So people who believe in the Old Testament in Africa, they would have already understood the prophecy of the coming Messiah before he even came.
Bro, come on, man. There's no way. If you true to the Old Testament and read it, there's no way you can say Africa is not heavily involved with it. From Melchizedek to the Moses' wife, his father-in-law, to different prophecies.
From Abraham to Jesus went to Africa. Imagine how many generations that is. From Abraham to Jesus, the Bible states they were in Africa. Or at least went. Come on, man.
And spent time there to the Israelites coming out to even within their DNA structure. They're like, bro, it's like, come on, man. Like, y'all can't play them type of games.
God hate Africans, Byron. God hate Africans, Byron.
Come on, man. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, bro, and I wish I can put the prophecy where God talks about Assyria, Egypt, and Jerusalem as his 3 sons, his 3 like leading up. And think about Assyria being the far eastern area, Jerusalem being essentially like what we call the Middle East area, and Egypt representing Africa. And he's talking about, these are my 3 sons. These are my treasured nations that's going to bring glory to me.
Like, Marvin, isn't it funny how he chose Israel and everybody would agree that Israel would be a mixed multitude of people when it comes to skin color? That means that they would have to have been from the darkest of dark in between to the lightest of lights. You mean to tell me y'all trying to out-think God with this racism stuff, man? God already had to. Why God didn't just pick the people far east? Why he didn't just pick the people far west? Why did he pick the ones right in the middle? Like, man, come on, think. Y'all want to be deep? Y'all want, like, come on, think. Use your brain, man. Like,
so this whole anti-African thing, no, it's anti-evil.
It's all evil. It don't matter what
evil.
culture you from.
No one what's culture for, and people like, well, your body, like, bro, you and this Old Testament, and I hate to go on this rant, but I had to tell people like, bro, you know how many times that God had to spank the Israelites more than anybody? People keep talking about like, oh, well, you know, God, look what God did to the Canaanites and the Egyptians. I said, yeah, but look what he did to the Israelites too.
What? Over and over and over and over. And over, bro, like, bro, well, man, y'all know the Israelites was God chosen people. Well, hey, man, God must been a stand-up father then, because them dudes got chastised every single time. Those other nations, let's look at it like this. Let's say you got your daddy, but your homeboys ain't got no daddy. But your daddy is the standard for your homeboy's daddy. Your daddy may get on your homeboy sometimes, you know, when y'all come outside, hey, tie your shoe up, hey, pull your pants up, hey, but you getting it worse because you live in the house with this dude. Like, come on, man. So if God doing his chosen people like that, and you can see him doing other nations outside of his people, not even worse, a little better, if you want to say that. Like, come on, man. What are y'all talking about, man?
It's crazy. I was bringing down to this brother like the whole time. He was like, yeah, you know, because God, I said, first of all, their whole point was to draw the nations to God, not to be just, you know, but if you want to get into it, I'm like, bro, so what happened to Miriam when she tried to talk down to Moses and his African wife? What happened to her immediately? What happened to her? Matter of fact, what happened as soon as Moses came down that mountain and they was worshiping that golden calf? What happened to almost half the population?
What happened when the Israelites became a nation and they wanted to go back and attack Egypt for what Egypt had done? God was like, no, those are my people.
Nope.
Those are what? He said, those are my people.
My people.
In Egypt. Like, come on, man. Y'all out here playing with this Bible, and that's what I be meaning, bro. Like, half of these people ain't even read it all the way through, or at least just read the books about the scriptures that they like to bring up the most, man. But somehow we are being dishonest because we've read the Bible probably back and forward at least 1, 2, or 3 times, and we study certain sects of the Bible every single day. Bro, I'm reading or studying something about the Bible every single day, bro. Some subject, something. I mean, I'm a little past scriptures. I ain't saying like all of, you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I'm a little past scriptures now. Now I'm just looking up like stuff, you know, like deeper meanings of what this chapter would have meant, or what this meaning would have meant, or what this I'm on that stuff now. And then to find people to just and I'm not saying that they, you know, totally wrong for this, because the Bible do teach that some people live on meat and some people live on milk. But to find people who didn't even get to the point of being on milk yet, trying to tell people who on meat what this scripture means, bro, is
if you read the Old Testament, like, do you know how many times that God chastised the Israelites for paganism? For paganism. Not nobody else, the Israelites for paganism. And he had to use other nations who were upstanding way better than the Israelites. As a matter of fact, I want to say it was
who are the Gentiles, Byron?
It was a Josiah right before him, but they had lost the ark. They had lost the commandments. They had, as a nation, they lost the command. So, but they was worshiping as a nation. And you talking about all God was doing, just trying to kill the bro? Do you know how many times he used other nations to spank the Israelites to get right?
Bob, who are the Gentiles?
All the other nations.
Now, didn't God say, I'm going to use the Gentiles to make the Jews jealous? Yep. Come on, man. What?
And then who said it's included this new covenant? This Old Testament now. What he said with new covenant that he was going to do, that was include who? That was going to include who?
Gentiles.
He was going to use the Gentiles. What?
Come on, hold on, watch this. And even in the Old Testament, the Gentiles, even back then, were still able to come among the gates and believe what the Jews believe and become one of them. Like, come on, what are y'all talking about, man? Like, come on, bro.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you got to take this thing again. This ain't, and the thing about it is, it's, you know, I was reading a text about it. It's 3-dimensional. So there's heroes and villains. Like, nobody's just a straight out just anybody except a hero. I don't care who you. I don't care if you Abraham, Moses, or David. They all did stuff that was wrong. They did stuff that, like, you questioning God. Sarah laughed at a prophecy from Abraham when he told her about that God said, and she laughed at him. But we would think that's unthinkable right now. She laughed at David. David let a whole man die so he could take his wife.
Come on, man.
Come on, bro. Like this is stuff that we like when I say three-dimensional, like, bro, if it's something that made up, you don't make up like when you make up a story, you make yourself the hero.
You make yourself look good.
You make yourself look good. You don't make yourself look bad, bro. And there's so many situations that they had to go through, and it's all, again, not to even get off original topic, but we here now. We here now. It's just like, bro, like, read the stuff, and if you have issues with it and you have trouble with it, there are commentaries, there are scholars even today that can help you out, you know, that can get you to understand the languages. And no, but I'm like you, I'm getting back to the culture and the languages and how these people.
I'm on that now, bro. I haven't found one argument. I haven't found one argument that debunks the Bible yet, bro. I mean, of course, I heard the arguments, I heard the skepticism, I heard all that, and I ain't saying this because I'm no Christian, bro. And you know, I've been in this thing for years. I haven't heard one argument that disproves the Bible. I haven't heard nobody debunk nothing from the Bible. It's been some good arguments, and of course, we're willing to defend whatever the argument is, period, even if we don't have to. But I've studied against myself, as I'm sure that you probably have. I know my pastor have, other people. I've studied against the information that I know about the Bible and things like that. I haven't heard one argument that disproves why I shouldn't believe in the Bible. I'm talking about as a whole. I'm not talking about like, oh, okay, well, you don't have archaeological evidence to prove this event. I ain't talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about as a whole. I haven't found one reason why I shouldn't believe in the Bible, bro. And like you were saying about the Old Testament, bro, like, man, bro, you said so much I want to touch on.
No, it's good, bro. When you study it, and Jerome know too, I know he getting his stuff in order right now, but when you study
Jerome, jump in here whenever you want, Jerome, bro, I told you.
When it's in its original languages and cultures, like, it actually is in line with a lot of the surrounding cultures. So like we take the, like in Genesis, we talk about the water situation. Like, do you know how many cultures have creation dealing with like these primordial, Egypt included, Canaan included, these primordial waters, this water situation? And what does the scripture say that the Spirit did? It hovered over the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. So even then, like, there's this ancient understanding of water and creation that goes about it. And even if we look at science, man, I'm about to shout. Look at science. What creates the world is the idea for water, for that breathes life. Like, even from a scientific standpoint. So we're talking about ancient people, but these people were not dumb. Like, and they talked to each other. They knew these different stories. People say, "Oh, well, the Bible stole this and Bible stole that." No, because you look at, and again, your example with the way Israel and Jerusalem in that area is in the center of that known world at the time, to where they have stories in common with people from the east of them, people from the west of them, people from the south of them, people from the north of them. And you like, oh, they just stole from all these four groups? No, these were all common understandings. And the biblical narrative is the one that made the most sense.
Watch this. Isn't it funny? Go ahead, Ron.
And just to touch on what Byron was saying, like, it is true that they had communication with these people, but like, and that's why you get this argument, oh, they stole from these people, though, you know what I'm saying? Right. Because of, you know, it's the Near Eastern context in which the stories was written. Now, one distinguishable factor is that, like I always say, when you think about Egypt, Mesopotamia, Assyria, even Greece and Rome, they operated under what's called continuity, like as far as their spiritual tradition and the narratives thereof. But when you think about the Bible and the Israelites, they were operating under what's called transcendence. You know what I'm saying? So that's the distinguishable difference in you know, when you try to compare the Bible and the biblical narratives to these other narratives and things like that.
Well, I think even if we go before the Israelites, you know, when the Bible talks about the Tower of Babel and where it would have been, and the Bible saying that people started there and then migrated east. When we look at the historical timeline, we can see that being true as well. And then for the people who stopped in the middle, you know, you got people where the tower at, going east, people in the middle, and then far east. Who would have been the people to be able to gain the most information from both sides? It would have been the people that was in the middle. So of course, these stories are going to sound similar even before we get to the Israelites. And we're just talking about the biblical narrative, right? Because before there was Egypt and all that, they had to have a proprietor. They had to have the father of that land, right? So if we come from Noah time, which Jerome helped me understand this, you know, we can only do so much archaeology to go back so far, you know, to be like, oh, what was the first place and all this? Because when it comes to Noah and all the stuff that got moved around and changed around then, we would have to literally go from that day. And he probably don't remember that, but he taught me that like some years ago. So anyway, we would have to start off where the people were and then go all the way up to Noah to the 3 sons, which would have the same story, right? Because they came from Noah, so they would have been on the boat, all this and that. If you go to every continent back then, this is the reason why every continent have a flood story, a flood theory, or whatever. This may not be the oldest text form of it, but this is the form that we have of what that region knew about a flood. And there are over, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 25 or somewhere between 13 and 25 flood stories worldwide from every continent. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, of course, some of these stories are going to sound the same. Of course, you know, like, you know, don't steal, don't kill, don't do this, don't do that, because it's coming from the same origin. You know what I'm saying? Whoever God is would have had to, like Byron was saying, we was talking about, I think on the other video, you don't have to teach your kids and all that to do good. I mean, to do bad, you got to teach them to do good. It's because we all come from this same standpoint. Don't kill, don't steal. If you find that in Buddhism or Hinduism or Kemetic or Christianity and all that, it's still the same principle. That means that they all got it from the same original standpoint. It don't mean somebody stole it from somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's a consistent agreement on something that is true. 1 + 1 = 2, period. Like whoever the first person, believe me, nobody was the first person to think of 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = 2 was always true. People figured that out. People figured out that 1 + 1 = 2. So we can't say that, oh, because that's true, oh, you stole it from Egypt, or Egypt stole it from the European, or the European stole it from the Indian. You can't say that. That's something that's true. Red is the color red. A comes before B. You know, 9 comes before 10. That stuff that's true. So you can't say that that's a copy because it's something that's true. You get what I'm saying?
And I'm probably not the roll after this one, but I just wanted to point this out
because we ready to close out. Go ahead.
I see this often. You know, well, why was, you know, this was written before the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. And it's weird when people say that, because I'm like, as Afrocentric people, because we know, especially in Africa and a lot of Asian cultures and indigenous cultures here, pretty much all the cultures in the world, let me just say that history begins orally first before it's ever written down. But just because one culture seems to write down something first, that does not mean they were the first or the only people to have a history. So just because you may have something written in Kemet or China or wherever that's written, it was still oral before it was ever chiseled in stone or written down or whatever. And that's the same thing goes for the biblical text too, where this is older in your Bible. Are you talking about the written Bible or the oral the oral history? Because, you know, people hit that, well, you know, you can't know stuff like this yet. In today's terminology, we don't know history like that. But let me ask you this. You can name, there's 5 songs that once they start right now, you can probably sing or rap that whole song through without even having to think twice about it, because you didn't heard it so many times. Now imagine you didn't have anything to write, but you had to hear these stories from birth, and you know the exact same narrative, bro.
They say that America was the first people to make it to the moon, but guess what? We used German spaceships.
Come on,
you know, like come on.
And so I'm just, you know, it just irritates me when it's like, oh, well, this is written. I'm like, bro, oral history is oral history, and it's crazy because African people Africans have been fighting to legitimize their oral histories for centuries. But now, when it's now quote unquote Hebrews or the Bible, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you know, your history is only written down. Bro, this was history that people knew. This is the narrative. This is stuff that they knew and talked about. This was their oral history that eventually was written. All this stuff was written, they were told. And that's that again, that's also because people don't understand what inspiration is. But you know, it's just like, why all of a sudden it's cool for, you know, Nubians, for example, to have an oral tradition and then essentially write it down. But something's wrong with Hebrews for having an oral tradition and writing it down. Something wrong with that?
No, that book you believe in is written down, but it sure is funny how yours survived and mine didn't.
Yeah, right. They so selective with scrutiny when it comes to, you know, written and oral history that it ain't even funny, but you know, we got to laugh at it. But you know, it's crazy, man. It's just they got a bias, and like I said in the last show, I believe they got an agenda to carry out when it comes to the Bible and those who believe in it.
My fear, Jerome, is that when they do that, they take away from the very Africa that they love. Because if you look at the Old Testament, the people who were the teachers were the priests, the rabbis. Well, not rabbis, was New Testament, but the priests were the teachers because they're the one that had to study and know the scriptures, especially the Levitical priests. They had to know it in and out, in and out. Now, in Africa, and just in general, not everywhere, I'm talking generalities right now because, you know, it's a continent, not a country. Wasn't the priests or the high teachers the ones that's supposed to know the history and the lessons of that specific tribe? Weren't they the ones that and didn't they have to bring up people under them to be menteed, and so they can grow up to be those same type of people? Mm-hmm. So again, it's okay for our African heritage for them to do that, to have that tradition. But when we see in the scriptures that essentially the Levitical priesthood, this is what they do, all of a sudden we put the blind like, oh no, that's wrong. Like, bro, they're doing the same thing they were doing on the continent. There was a certain amount of people, certain select people who were the priests that's supposed to perform the functions, that knew the history. Their whole purpose was to know the text in and out, know the histories, know the laws, the statutes, the commandments, and every single thing. That was the Levitical priesthood.
Our people kept it alive. Like you said, our people kept it alive, man.
But in Africa, we had the same type of traditions, you know what I'm saying? But all of a sudden, it's okay, you know, we don't see a correlation anymore. And I'm like, if you criticize that, which is the in the biblical text, what you do unknowingly is you criticize the very Africa that you love. So then you say oral tradition in Africa is just poppycock. If it ain't written down, then it's wrong. So anything West African that ain't written down is wrong. And these oral traditions in West Africa, they're just made up mythology. That ain't true. Like, bro, that's what you do when you don't think about that stuff.
And they talk about the timeline, bro. And I've been wanting to touch on this sister that said it. When it comes to the Bible, like you said, when you go read things from antiquity and beyond, especially from the Egyptians, show me all the documents in Egypt where they depressed and upset and mad because of something that happened to them. You don't see that a lot in Egypt. You only see, you know, oh, we won this, we did this, we killed this. And not just Egypt, I'm talking, it's every other ancient nation as well. It's always, majority of the information is about, oh, we conquered this, we took this, we happy this. When you read that Bible, they're telling you that the faults, they're telling you, man, all the stuff they went through, they're telling you the drama. This dude telling you, man, I had a wife and 2 baby mamas. Man, I had 2 daughters who was freaking in the mud, got me drunk, got me messed up. They telling you, man, we had God talking to us and we still was going left. Man, we knew this and we still went like the Bible and the people that are in it, you can take the stuff that they were going through back then all the way up to today, and you can prove that there is nothing new under the sun, man. You can see men and women dealing with the same stuff we deal with today in 2021, way back then, man. So to think that these people were dumb or somehow less intelligent, when really, how much intelligence do you think it takes today for us to build the pyramids of Egypt? And then how much intelligence you think it took for them to build that structure that's still standing today? Come on, man. These people were not dumb, man. But say, we finna get ready to close out, my brother. Before we close out, Jerome, go on give your spiel on this subject, and then I'm gonna give Byron time to close out and the Goo time to close out, and we'll close on that.
All right. So I mean, this is a topic, like I said at the beginning, this is a topic that really needed to be touched on, and things needed to be brought out concerning it. And I think, you know, me, you, and Byron did a pretty good job on.
Shout out to Thomas White.
Oh yeah, I wish Thomas White would have hopped on too, man. But
Yeah.
shout out to him anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I'm really thankful that we got to do this, man, because you know, hopefully it opens some people's eyes who were subscribing to the whole "I'm spiritual, not religious" thing, and
Right.
you know, even and you know, subsequently reevaluate their worldview, man. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully it leads them back to Christ. But you know, that's
real tough. Hey, Byron, man, go and give your last words that you want to give, last statement you want to give on this particular subject, and then give your closing words. Let people know where they can find you at, my brother.
Yeah, man. Kind of like Jerome said, man, you know, on this subject, I just want people to know terms correctly, like, you know, and not make up stuff, because that can be dangerous and misleading. At least we need to have a established vocabulary and terminology so we know what we're talking about, and, you know, not trying to sound cute or cool, and just really parse these things out. And I want people to, you know, do research on all sides. Keep that, you know, like I said, they keep that same energy on all sides, and be, you know, being careful in the things that we have. And, you know, I don't know it all. You know, nobody ever knows it all. But, you know, one thing I'm confident about a Christian community is that it's not meant for one person to know it all. We all in the community.
Why you ain't mention Jerome, bro? You said nobody knows it all. Why you ain't I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Nah, man, you know, and again, you know, one thing about our faith is that, you know, a lot of things are meant to be apprehended and not comprehended. You know, we're not going to know everything, but this is just sometimes it's thus said the Lord. And if the Lord is true, thus said the Lord is true. You know what I'm saying? So it's things that, you know, you may not have every single answer, but nobody does. But then again, this is all we want people to lead back to Christ. But even if, you know, that, and I pray that happens, but even if that don't happen, we can have civil dialogues and be on the same page, and not, you know, be throwing stones at each other and making up stuff to make it difficult to have difficult conversations. And so, man, I appreciate y'all, brothers. Y'all can find me on the channel, Byron Washington. I do my thing in my community scholar on Saturdays. Be on the lookout for some more big things coming up. Again, I'm always a proponent of global historic Christianity. I'm currently taking seminary classes right now, learning Christianity from an Asian and Afrocentric perspective. So that's really helping me out with a lot of things. So, man, shout out to everybody. Shout out to my believers. Shout out to the non-believers. Because again, we got to have these dialogues. We got to continue, because this has been part of Christian tradition since the beginning. We all, in the New Testament, they had dialogues with non-believers. So we still got to have these dialogues and still work together. So
what's up? That's what's up. And Jerome, man, you want to give your closing remarks and let people know where they can find you at, my brother?
Oh yeah. Like once again, you know, it was a blessing to be on the panel with y'all brothers. You know what I'm saying? Chopping it up and giving that truth. I mean, of course, you can find me on Facebook under you know, my government name, Jerome Green, and you know, hit me up on Messenger or you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. So, okay. Well, y'all already know me, man. I'm nobody. My government name, Jehovah's Wire. You can find me on that on Facebook. You can always, if you're local, come commune in my church, man. Manifestation of God, 124 Lofton Street, out here in Cedar Hill, Texas, man. Of course, you can find me right here as the co-host of Paradigm Shift TV 314. You can also find me on my own channel, where my co-host Jerome, the Conscious Christian Green, that's Mr. Co-host to you over there on on Trust and Believe the Gospel, man. We starting back to upload some content. You know what I'm saying? We're getting everything set up and everything. Again, we know we ain't been putting too much on there in a while, but y'all can stay tuned, stay subscribed, look forward to the content that we got coming up in the future, man. As y'all already know, these three brothers, including Thomas White and the other brothers that come on this platform, man, we love y'all, man. We don't hate y'all at all. Some of the stuff that are said about Christians get a bad rep. All these brothers who Jerome have brought on this platform, and by way of myself as well, I have heard people give nothing but positive feedback about these brothers. I have heard all of them say that, hey, I didn't know a Christian like y'all even existed until I talked to y'all. So I just want y'all to know we still have that same love and spirit. We may get turned up, we may get rah-rah with y'all, but we're coming from a true, honest spirit, man. We love y'all, but we also humans at the same time. So we can get frustrated. We can, feel a certain type of way and all that too. But our overall agenda is to get y'all to know what y'all mama taught y'all, what y'all grandmama taught y'all, granddaddies, daddies, and all that about Jesus Christ. That's true, man. And if y'all may have lost y'all way, somehow, a lot of us brothers that are Christians who are on this platform, we lost our way too, man. And we just want y'all to know that God will accept you back with open arms, man. He understands, man, that, hey, you have to go out there and bump your head and figure out what it is, man. He loves y'all. We love y'all. That has been Jerome, the Conscious Christian Green, the co-host of Trust and Believe the Gospel, Mr. Co-host to you. That has been B. Wash, a.k.a. Byron Washington, out there in Louisiana holding it down, man. I am nobody. Always trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody, and that is Jesus the Christ. This has been Paradigm Shift TV 314, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode. That's peace.
Peace.
Peace.